What's good, fight fans? Duke here, and let me tell you something. The boxing world is about to witness something absolutely phenomenal.
We're just days away from what might be the most electrifying clash of 2025, and honestly, I can barely contain my excitement. So, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence "Bud" Crawford. Two pound-for-pound kings, two undefeated champions at their respective weights, and one night that will define legacies forever. This isn't just another fight, folks. This is boxing history in the making, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a perfectly timed uppercut. The stage is set for Saturday, September 13th, 2025, at the magnificent Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yeah, you heard that right. The same venue where the Raiders play, but this Saturday night it's going to transform into boxing's most sacred ground. The main event is scheduled for 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and if you're not already marking your calendar, you're doing yourself a disservice. This is the kind of fight that reminds us why we fell in love with boxing in the first place. But before we dive deep into the technical breakdown that's got every analyst in the world scratching their heads, let's talk numbers, because this fight isn't just about glory, it's about generational wealth. We're looking at a combined purse that's estimated to exceed $150 million, with Canelo commanding his usual astronomical fee of around $35–40 million, while Crawford is set to earn the biggest payday of his career at approximately $25–30 million. Netflix has reportedly shelled out a jaw-dropping $250 million for the broadcasting rights, making this one of the most expensive boxing events in streaming history. The economic impact on Las Vegas alone is projected to surpass $100 million when you factor in tourism, hospitality, and all the ancillary spending that comes with an event of this magnitude. Now, here's where it gets really interesting and why every boxing purist should be glued to their screens. Crawford is making a monumental leap, not one, but two full weight classes up from his natural welterweight division at 147 pounds, all the way up to super middleweight at 168 pounds. That's 21 pounds of difference, folks. In boxing terms, that's like asking a Formula One driver to suddenly pilot an 18-wheeler. The physics change, the power dynamics shift, and everything Crawford has mastered over his undefeated 41-fight career gets put to the ultimate test. But don't sleep on Bud Crawford just because he's moving up. This man is a boxing savant, a switch-hitting wizard who's achieved undisputed status at both 140 and 147 pounds. His boxing IQ is off the charts, his adaptability is legendary, and his southpaw stance gives him angles that have frustrated every opponent he's ever faced. At 5'8" with a 74-inch reach, Crawford actually has a slight height advantage over the 5'17" Canelo and a significant 4-inch reach advantage. That extra length could be the key to keeping Canelo at bay and landing those picture-perfect counter shots that have made him famous. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you think Crawford's reach advantage will be the deciding factor. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button because we're just getting started with this analysis. The technical breakdown of this fight reads like a masterclass in contrasting styles. Canelo Alvarez, at 34 years old, represents the epitome of Mexican boxing tradition, a pressure fighter with devastating body attack, surgical precision with his combinations, and knockout power that follows him up through every weight class. His record of 63 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws with 39 knockouts tells the story of a fighter who's faced the absolute elite and usually found a way to break them down. Remember his destruction of Caleb Plant? The way he systematically dismantled Billy Joe Saunders? That's the Canelo that Crawford has to deal with. But here's what makes this fight so fascinating from a technical standpoint. Canelo's recent performances have shown some concerning signs.
He hasn't scored a knockout since that Plant fight back in 2021, and his last few outings against Edgar Berlanga and William Skull were, let's be honest, pretty lackluster affairs.
The fire that once burned so bright seems to be flickering, and at 34, with over 20 years of professional warfare under his belt, Father Time might finally be knocking at his door. Crawford, meanwhile, is 38 years old but carries significantly less mileage. His style is based on intelligence rather than brute force, slick defensive skills rather than walking through punishment, and his ability to switch stances mid-combination gives him options that most fighters simply don't possess. Watch his dismantling of Errol Spence Jr. in 2023. That was a technical masterpiece.
A lesson in how superior boxing skills can overcome perceived physical disadvantages. The betting markets are telling us an interesting story, too. Initially, many expected Canelo to be a heavy favorite, but the odds have tightened significantly. Canelo opened around 200 but has moved to approximately 165, while Crawford has shifted from around 170 to 145. That movement suggests that the smart money, the professional bettors, who know what they're looking at, are seeing value in Crawford's chances. From a stylistic perspective, this matchup presents fascinating puzzles for both fighters to solve. Canelo's success has always been built on his ability to cut off the ring, apply constant pressure, and wear down opponents with his relentless body attack. His left hook to the liver is one of the most feared weapons in boxing, and his overhand right has put numerous fighters on the canvas. But Crawford's lateral movement, his ability to fight effectively going backwards, and his uncanny knack for making opponents miss while landing clean countershots present problems that Canelo hasn't seen in years. The key question is whether Crawford can maintain his speed, power, and stamina at this higher weight. History is littered with fighters who moved up and lost their most defining characteristics. Remember when Roy Jones Jr. went up to heavyweight? He won, but he was never the same fighter when he came back down. Crawford insists he's been walking around at 170, 175 pounds between fights, so the weight shouldn't be an issue. But walking around heavy and actually fighting at that weight are two completely different animals. For Canelo, the path to victory seems clear on paper. Use his size advantage, lean on Crawford in the clinch, attack the body relentlessly, and look for that signature overhand right when Crawford tries to counter. If he can make this a phone booth fight, if he can smother Crawford's movement and force him to stand and trade, the Mexican superstar's power advantage should eventually tell the story. But Crawford's team, led by the brilliant trainer Bomac, surely has a different script in mind. They'll want to use every inch of that ring, stay on the outside, pepper Canelo with jabs and straight lefts, and make him chase shadows for 12 rounds. If Crawford can frustrate Canelo, make him reach and load up on power shots, those counter opportunities will present themselves. And when they do, Crawford has shown throughout his career that he rarely misses. The psychological aspect of this fight cannot be understated either. Canelo has been criticized recently for choosing what many perceive as easier opponents, for not taking the kind of risks that made him a superstar in the first place. This fight against Crawford is his chance to silence those critics, to prove that he's still the face of boxing, still the man who can rise to any occasion. The pressure on him is immense, especially fighting just 3 days before Mexican Independence Day with his entire country watching. Crawford, on the other hand, has nothing to lose and everything to gain. If he loses, people will say he was simply too small, too old, took on too big a challenge. But if he wins, he becomes the first man in the four-belt era to hold undisputed championships in 3 different weight classes. That's immortality territory, folks. That's the kind of achievement that gets you mentioned in the same breath as Sugar Ray Robinson and Henry Armstrong. The sparring reports leading up to this fight have been absolutely tantalizing. Both camps have been tight-lipped, but word from Vegas is that Crawford has been working extensively with larger sparring partners, guys who can simulate Canelo's size and pressure. Meanwhile, Canelo's team has brought in southpaw specialists and fighters with Crawford's kind of movement. The preparation on both sides has been meticulous, obsessive, the kind of detail-oriented training that happens when both fighters know they're in the biggest fight of their lives. Speaking of preparation, the mental games have already begun. At last week's press conference in Las Vegas, the tension was palpable. Canelo, usually stoic and composed, seemed more animated than usual, maybe feeling the weight of expectations. Crawford, meanwhile, displayed that quiet confidence that has served him so well throughout his career. When asked about moving up 2 weight classes, Crawford simply smiled and said, "I've been waiting for this moment my whole career. Canelo better be ready because I'm coming to take what's mine." The trash talk has been minimal but pointed. Canelo questioning whether Crawford has ever faced anyone with his kind of power. Crawford responding that power means nothing if you can't hit your target. It's the kind of respectful but competitive banter that makes great fights even better. Let me tell you something. This fight is absolutely crucial for both men's legacies, and the experts are split right down the middle on how it's going to play out. But trust me when I say the best is yet to come in this breakdown, so make sure you're subscribed because we're about to dive into some mind-blowing analysis. The expert predictions have been all over the map,
And that's exactly what you want to see in a truly great fight. ESPN's panel of experts is split almost 50-50, with some favoring Canelo's size and power, while others believe Crawford's superior boxing skills will carry the day. Timothy Bradley, the former two-weight world champion and respected analyst, has been going back and forth on his prediction, which tells you everything you need to know about how difficult this fight is to call. Teddy Atlas, one of boxing's most respected voices, has doubled down on his Canelo prediction, citing the Mexican's experience at the weight and his devastating body attack as key factors. But Roy Jones Jr., arguably one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time, has gone with Crawford, believing that superior boxing skills will overcome the size disadvantage. The trainer perspectives are equally fascinating. Robert Garcia, the 2024 BWBA Trainer of the Year, thinks Crawford has a real opportunity based on what he perceives as Canelo's recent decline in hunger and performance. He points to Canelo appearing flat-footed in recent fights, relying more on single shots rather than the devastating combinations that made him famous. Crawford needs to fight smart, use his speed and footwork, and avoid standing in front of Canelo, Garcia stated in a recent interview. But Ronnie Shields, who trained Erislandy Lara for his controversial decision loss to Canelo back in 2014, sees things differently. He admires Crawford's speed and adaptability, but believes the weight jump will be more significant than people realize. Shields predicts Crawford will weigh around 170 pounds fight night, while Canelo could balloon up to over 180 pounds, which he thinks could actually work against the Mexican champion if he becomes too muscular and loses mobility. The financial analysts are having a field day with this fight too. The pay-per-view projections are astronomical, with some estimates suggesting this could be the highest-grossing boxing event since Mayweather-McGregor. The Netflix factor adds an interesting wrinkle. This is their biggest foray into live boxing, and the success of this event could determine their future involvement in the sport. We're talking about potentially 50+ million viewers worldwide, numbers that haven't been seen in boxing for years. The undercard, while not as stacked as some recent Saudi Arabian shows, still features some intriguing matchups that could steal the show. The co-main event features rising stars who are looking to make their mark on the biggest stage possible. And you know how these young fighters perform when the spotlight is brightest. They're going to leave everything in that ring. From a strategic standpoint, both fighters face fascinating puzzles. Crawford's team has likely studied every minute of Canelo's recent fights, looking for declining reflexes, patterns in his defense, any sign that the years of war are catching up with him. They've probably identified that Canelo tends to start slower in recent fights, maybe looking to rely more on his experience and ring IQ rather than overwhelming aggression. Canelo's camp, meanwhile, has been analyzing Crawford's move up to 154 pounds against Israel Madrimov, a fight that many felt Crawford won but didn't dominate as expected. If Crawford looked anything less than spectacular against a strong 154-pounder, what happens when he faces the best 168-pounder on the planet? The judges for this fight will be crucial too. Nevada State Athletic Commission always assigns their most experienced officials to fights of this magnitude, but styles make fights, and styles also influence scorecards. If this fight becomes a chess match, if it's about subtle boxing skills rather than explosive moments, how will the judges score those close rounds? Weather could even play a factor. September in Las Vegas can still be brutally hot. And Allegiant Stadium, while climate-controlled, will be packed with 65,000 screaming fans generating tremendous heat and energy. Both fighters are accustomed to big stages, but the atmosphere for this event is expected to be unlike anything either has experienced. The walkouts alone are going to be spectacular. Canelo traditionally enters to mariachi music, embracing his Mexican heritage and the passionate support of his countrymen. Crawford's walkouts are typically more understated but equally powerful, reflecting his Omaha roots and blue-collar work ethic. The contrast in styles extends even to these ceremonial moments. Looking at the technical aspects deeper, Crawford's southpaw stance presents problems that Canelo hasn't faced consistently in recent years. Most of Canelo's recent opponents have been orthodox fighters, and while he certainly faced quality southpaws in his career, most notably Erislandy Lara, Crawford represents a different level of southpaw skill and athletic ability. The jab battle will be absolutely critical. Crawford's jab from the southpaw stance is a thing of beauty, long, straight, and perfectly timed.
It's the foundation of everything he does offensively and defensively. If he can establish that jab early, control distance, and make Canelo work to get inside, he has a real chance to win rounds consistently. Canelo's jab, while not as picture-perfect as Crawford's, serves a different purpose. It's more of a range finder, a way to set up his devastating combinations. But against a southpaw of Crawford's caliber, Canelo might need to rely more heavily on his jab than he's comfortable with. The body work battle could determine the outcome of this fight. Canelo's left hook to the body is legendary. It's broken down world-class fighters and changed the momentum of countless fights. But Crawford's body movement, his ability to twist away from power shots while maintaining his balance and positioning for counters, makes him a difficult target for body shots. Conversely, Crawford's straight left to the body, especially when Canelo leans forward looking to get inside, could be a major weapon. Southpaws throughout boxing history have used that straight left to the solar plexus to devastating effect against orthodox fighters who get careless with their positioning. The championship rounds 10, 11, and 12 could be absolutely crucial in this fight. Both fighters have shown the ability to dig deep when it matters most, but they do it in different ways. Canelo typically finds another gear in the late rounds, his conditioning and power carrying him when skill alone isn't enough. Crawford, meanwhile, tends to solve puzzles as fights progress, his adjustments becoming more pronounced and effective as he downloads more information about his opponent. The referee assignment will be interesting too. You want someone who will allow both fighters to work, who won't get in the way of the action, but who also understands the nuances of different fighting styles. A ref who doesn't understand Crawford's slick defensive skills might penalize him for not engaging, while a ref who doesn't appreciate Canelo's pressure fighting might break up exchanges too quickly. Training camp reports suggest both fighters are in phenomenal shape. Canelo, working with the legendary Eddie Reynoso, has been putting emphasis on his conditioning and hand speed, perhaps recognizing that he'll need to match Crawford's work rate to be successful. Crawford, training with Bomac and Manny Robles, has been focusing on adapting his style to the higher weight class while maintaining the attributes that made him special. The sparring partners each camp has chosen tell a story too. Canelo has been working extensively with southpaw sparring partners who can mimic Crawford's movement and counter-punching ability. Crawford has been sparring with bigger, stronger fighters who can simulate the kind of pressure and power that Canelo brings to every fight. Injuries and health concerns are always a factor in fights of this magnitude. There were whispers about Crawford dealing with a shoulder issue during camp, though he's vehemently denied these reports. At 38 years old, every ache and pain becomes magnified. Every training session becomes more crucial. Canelo, while younger, has been in significantly more wars, and the accumulated damage from fights against Gennady Golovkin, Daniel Jacobs, and Sergey Kovalev could be a factor as the fight wears on. The psychological warfare has been subtle but effective. Crawford's quiet confidence, his insistence that he belongs at this weight class, his refusal to be intimidated by Canelo's reputation, it all suggests a fighter who truly believes he can win. Canelo's response, his emphasis on making Crawford pay for moving up 2 weight classes, suggests a fighter who takes this challenge very seriously. Media obligations leading up to the fight have provided fascinating insights into both fighters' mindsets. Crawford has been relaxed, almost jovial in interviews, suggesting a fighter at peace with his decision and confident in his preparation. Canelo has been more intense, more focused, perhaps feeling the weight of expectations from his massive fan base. The international appeal of this fight cannot be overstated. Mexico will virtually shut down to watch their hero defend his crown. The United States has 2 fighters representing different aspects of American boxing: Canelo, the adopted Mexican-American superstar, and Crawford, the pride of Omaha, Nebraska. The global audience for this event could eclipse anything boxing has seen in the streaming era.
Social media buzz has been off the charts.
Canelo vs. Crawford has been trending globally for weeks, and the engagement numbers are staggering.
Boxing fans who haven't been excited about a fight in years are planning viewing parties, purchasing pay-per-views, and engaging with content at levels we haven't seen since the golden era of HBO boxing. The commentary team assembled for this event is top tier, with voices that understand the nuances of both fighters' styles. Having quality commentary will be crucial for newer boxing fans who might be tuning in because of the Netflix platform and the mainstream attention this fight has generated. Ring walks are scheduled to begin around 8:45 p.m. Eastern, with both fighters expected to have elaborate entrances befitting the magnitude of this event. The national anthems, the introductions, the final instructions from the referee, every moment will be magnified. Every detail scrutinized by millions of viewers worldwide. The tale of the tape tells an interesting story. Crawford, at 38 years old, 5'8", 74-inch reach, undefeated in 41 fights with 31 knockouts. Canelo, at 34 years old, 5'07", 70-inch reach, 63-2-2 with 39 knockouts. On paper, Crawford has advantages in height, reach, and record. But Canelo has advantages in weight class experience, knockout ratio at this weight, and familiarity with the unique pressures that come with super fights. The styles really do make this fight compelling. Crawford's boxing ability, his movement, his counter-punching skills versus Canelo's pressure, power, and championship experience.
It's a classic matchup of skill versus will, boxing versus fighting,
technique versus determination. Weather conditions in Las Vegas are expected to be perfect. Clear skies, temperatures in the mid-80s, ideal conditions for what should be an outdoor spectacle under the lights of Allegiant Stadium. The atmosphere is going to be electric, with fans from Mexico making the pilgrimage north and American boxing fans recognizing this as a once-in-a-generation event. The weigh-in results will be fascinating to analyze. Both fighters should make the 168-pound limit without issue.
But their condition, their hydration levels,
their mental state during that final face-off will provide clues about their readiness for battle. Rehydration patterns will be crucial too. How much weight does each fighter put back on between Friday's weigh-in and Saturday night's fight? Historical context makes this fight even more special. We're potentially watching the final elite-level fight for both men. Crawford, at 38, might have one or two more high-level fights left in him. Canelo, while younger, has been talking more frequently about retirement and legacy preservation. This could be our last chance to see either fighter at their absolute best. The undercard results could influence the main event too.
If the earlier fights are spectacular, the crowd will be even more energized for the main event.
If they're disappointing, it might create an atmosphere where fans are desperate for excitement, potentially influencing how both fighters approach their battle. Ring conditions will be perfect. Canvas tension,
rope tightness, lighting, every detail has been meticulously planned for optimal television production and fighter safety.
The Nevada State Athletic Commission doesn't mess around with fights of this magnitude.
And every equipment check will be thorough and professional. The most fascinating aspect of this entire event might be what happens next for both fighters, regardless of the outcome. If Canelo wins, does he continue fighting?
Does he look for other legacy fights, or does he start planning his retirement?
If Crawford wins, does he immediately become the biggest name in boxing? Does he move up to light heavyweight to chase even more history? Fight fans around the world are expressing their opinions on social media, and the passion is incredible.
Mexican fans posting videos of their viewing party preparations. American fans debating technique and strategy.
International fans who don't usually follow boxing but are drawn in by the spectacle and the Netflix platform. The economic impact extends far beyond the fighters' purses.
Las Vegas hotels are booked solid. Restaurants are preparing for their biggest weekend of the year. The ripple effect of an event this size touches thousands of people and generates hundreds of millions in economic activity. Now, I want to hear from you, the real boxing fans who understand what we're about to witness. This isn't just about who wins and who loses. This is about witnessing greatness, about seeing two masters of their craft compete at the highest possible level. Drop your predictions in the comments below. Tell me who you think wins and why. Are you Team Canelo backing the proven super middleweight champion with devastating power? Or are you Team Crawford believing in the undefeated switch-hitting wizard who's never met a puzzle he couldn't solve? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because Fight Night content is going to be absolutely insane.
and you won't want to miss a single moment of analysis, reaction,
and breakdown of what promises to be an unforgettable night of boxing.
This is Duke, and I'll see you fight night for what might just be the greatest boxing match of our generation.